guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Eden Zero Chapter 101. And oh boy, oh fucking boy, we have a lot, and I mean a lot, to talk about with this chapter. Um, so, obviously, the major thing to talk about is the confrontation between our heroes and the supposedly resurrected Ziggy. And right now, there are so many theoretical angles to look at this from, but as of right now, there are two right now that kind of seem the most plausible as to what's going on here. First is that very much in the same way that in the same way like how in the beginning of the series that all the machines of Granbull had concocted that virus scenario in order to get Shiki to pretty much leave the planet. I think Ziggy is very much doing a similar thing here, but with the express intent to help Shiki grow stronger and serve as sort of a final test before he basically goes on his journey like in order to pretty much traverse the Sakura cosmos and to see if he is, well, even ready for such a journey. And the fact that the Force Starshine's memory wipe was even brought up again in this chapter makes me believe this idea that all this is what makes me believe even more that all this is staged is that what makes me believe this idea that all this is staged even more is because it tells me that Ziggy did in fact reach Mother. That's, I think, the one thing that was definitely proven, I think, in this chapter really, is that I think we got confirmation more or less that Ziggy did at one point reach Mother. But when he did reach her, he learned something about her, some kind of truth about Mother he couldn't talk about out loud because I think the experience of meeting Mother left him with far more questions than answers. And so and that's probably what Ziggy is doing here. He's preparing his grandson in the hopes that Shiki is not only prepared to face Mother when the time comes, but maybe also hopes he'll come to a different conclusion than he did, which would also explain a lot about why he wiped the Starshine's memories to begin with. Like it's pretty much the old idea that this is something that can't, like, the whole thing of meeting Mother in itself. It's something that can't be learned or explained. The journey to meet Mother is something that can only be determined by the individual experience itself. Whatever conclusion that Ziggy had come to at that time of meeting Mother, it's conclusion he came to based on his journey. But Ziggy, I think, also wants Shiki in order to have his own experience in meeting Mother and come to his own conclusion about Mother, and maybe the conclusion he comes to will be different than the one he inevitably came to. Like there is very much this whole idea I'm getting right now that yeah, the reason why he did even wipe the Starshine's memories to begin with is because he didn't want them to remember. He wanted Shiki to pretty much go into this journey completely blind and just kind of come to his own conclusion, and maybe even if they and maybe even the Starshines who more than likely have knowledge about that journey, maybe even they would end up coming to a completely different conclusion than the one they probably came to when their minds were first wiped. I don't know, like a lot of this does seem to be setting the stage for that right now. The second theory I have is the possibility that it's a kind of situation where a sentient computer program has sort of infiltrated Ziggy's body, and and that could be interesting to see where or that route would in the sense that would be an interesting route to show in the sense where it basically it shows that Connor is very much being manipulated, and in some respects that would also make even more logical sense considering this is a thing that's been set up in the world with Seth Anderson and the idea of sentient computer programs affecting androids. So this is something we've seen, and it could very well be the case here, where Ziggy himself is being controlled by some kind of sentient computer program, and depending on how, and honestly, if that is the case, and if that is the case, then depending on how this plays, that whole route plays out, we could be looking at Shiki at sorry like pretty much Ziggy being the sort of like main antagonist of the of the series. We could be looking at Shiki being like the main antagonist, at Ziggy being the main antagonist of the series from like this point on. Like he could be like the end game antagonist of what Ziggy could be the main antagonist. That could be like an in game villain kind of thing. I think that could also very well be the case here. But either way, I think but honestly, whatever the situation is, I think one thing that I've really taken away from this chapter more than anything else is that it definitely gave the vibe that Ziggy is not acting evil for evil's sake. There's definitely a hook that Mashima is playing into here. It's really just a matter of which of these two or which angle specifically that Mashima is going with. Like I said, it's probably one of these two he's going with. But it's really just a lot of the whatever kind of hook he's going with. It really just depends on where he goes with it from here, I guess you could say. Now let's talk about something that I don't normally talk about, but I do want to mention it anyway, which is the tone of the chapter. Because one thing I kind of appreciated is that how the chapter starts off like fairly simple and lighthearted, then eases us into the unease of the situation, but by seeing all the like deceased robots, all the empty and deceased robots, and how something is not right, and then like it settles us very much into that tone of there's a bit of unease in the air. So something is clearly wrong here, and then boom, it lands us right into Crazy Town. It lands us right into Crazy Town, and like the build up to that moment of Ziggy appearing was just so smooth. It felt like the whole tone of this. I think if I were to describe it to you guys, it felt like a horror movie in some ways where it was building up this thing very subtly, and then boom, just lands the gut punch on us. So yeah, a very nice way that Mashima had set this up, honestly. Now, and another thing about this chapter is that I feel Mashima was once again kind of diving very subtly into the time travel aspect of the series by showing us that what's going on with Ziggy right now is probably another after effect of our heroes changing the timeline, as well as them being in a different world from the one before, and as we go further, there probably will be more changes that they need to adapt to. Like honestly, like right now, the biggest question I think I'm asking with this whole change in the timeline thing is how it's affected the current version of Professor Weiss, like the old man Professor Weiss right now. That's the one thing I want to know for sure right now. And yeah, let's talk about Pino, because this is such a fascinating setup where I don't think she's going to betray our heroes, but at the same time, you can see how this has created such a conflicting decision for her. And in some ways, looking at Pino's development and journey up to this point, and how she's become, honestly, more and more human from just being around Shiki, it's really been building up to this one moment where she now almost has to decide which part of herself she's more willing to accept. The part of her that's becoming more human, the more machine part of her, or maybe even somewhere in the middle. Like this is a very fascinating setup, and I'm like, I don't think she's gonna outright betray our heroes. I don't think so. But it's like just the conflict of just the inner conflict of this whole situation is just fascinating to look at, and I'm just very curious as to what Pino's decision is gonna be right now with all the development she's gotten up to this point. Um, but yeah, guys, that's really all I got for this review. And and I very much encourage like you guys to comment on this video for sure, because I would really like to know your any other theories that you guys might have, because this is very much one of those reviews that just kind of that very much was very theory based. Like there's just so many theories you can kind of glean from this. But yeah, so just like again usual, like very would like you to comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed the video, just do all that. And yeah, guys, Death Knight of Enemy signing off. Later.